All right, so here we are with another DC Multiverse unboxing from Mcfarlane Toys, and this is Batman. But it's not just any Batman, is it? This is 1939 Batman. This is Little Purple Gloves Batman. This is Detective Comics 27 Batman. This is not gun-toting Batman, because he doesn't come with a gun. Because, weird uh, loopholes with the, clauses with the McFarlane contract. They can't give characters guns. And they don't like to give Batman guns anyway, even with the 1939 Batman, who probably should have a gun. I don't think he actually used a gun in this particular story, the case of the Chemical Syndicate. But in this first year of publication, Batman was known to tote a sidearm, blew away some vampires with some silver bullets in one issue. Oddly enough, even though Batman was often shown holding a gun, he wasn't often shown using a gun. That was one of the few examples of him actually shooting somebody with a gun, and it was a vampire, so I don't know if it really counts. And then you had, of course, another panel you always see of Batman using guns and killing people is in his Batplane, where he's got the Gatling gun, and he's firing it. I think it was the Monster Men, and he's saying, "As much as I hate to take a human life, I'm afraid this time it's necessary." So that's how I like to think of Batman. Like, not necessarily as a killer, but as somebody who, like, if he was put in a position where he had to kill somebody, it would not be, a pleasant duty. He would definitely want to. Batman should be a guy that, at the end of the day, whether you think he's a killer or not, this has been something that's been debated a lot lately. But I kind of feel like Batman should always be a character that believes in the sanctity of human life and is going to do whatever he can to preserve it. Now, also, I kind of feel like, if he's put in a position where he has to choose between saving an innocent person and letting a guilty person die, well, they shouldn't have let themselves get in that position, should they? He's going to save that innocent life. That's as I look at that. So maybe that's a controversial opinion. I don't know. I picked this guy up at GameStop. I did have him pre-ordered on Amazon, but I saw him like before the Amazon one was even close to shipping. So I'm like, well, you snooze, you lose, Amazon. Sorry. So I canceled that one and went ahead and picked this one up. So let's go ahead and open them up. We've been over this McFarlane packaging a lot. You've seen it before. And the main thing that's worth noting is the Detective Comics number 27 cover on the back. Do I have around here anywhere? So I know I had him at some point in this area. My first appearance, Superman. Maybe he fell on the ground over here. I really need to tidy up this area. Now let's watch Superman. That's Frank Miller's Superman. Because I know I had all my Supermans over here when I was going over them last time, and they were all sitting on this side of the couch. There he is. So we can have those two together. That'll be fun. So first of all, before I forget, this always makes me happy. The stand and the bubble and the card are on the same bubble. So that's going to make it really easy for me to get this card off. So that makes me happy. I always like that. All right, so typical DC figure stand, matte black plastic with a shiny, glossy black DC logo. And the trading card with the famous Detective Comics cover. Batman swinging off a rooftop, grabbing a crook by the neck. He's probably dead. Batman probably killed this guy on the cover of his first appearance. A couple of, stereotypical 1930s mobsters looking on from the opposite rooftop. Sometimes when they do an homage to this cover, they redraw the guy that he has to be the Joker. Because it's always fun to draw the Joker, isn't it? You can see how he would work out pretty well as the Joker. He's got that pinstripe suit and everything. And in one famous example, Norm Brayfogle, on one of the anniversary issues of Detective Comics, he had actually repainted these in his painting of it. He had actually recast these guys as the two muggers at the beginning of the 1989 Batman movie. I'm telling you, man, there ain't no bat. Well, maybe this is Johnny Gobbs when he got ripped and took a walk off a roof, all right? No big loss. Okay. Oh, I should read the back of it because there's stuff on the back. That's what the back looks like. Got a nice detail of the 1939 Batman there. Batman, Detective Comics number 27. Real name, Bruce Wayne. Well, we'll spoil the end of Detective Comics number 27. Maybe some of us haven't read it. It's only been out for like 80 years. Batman has dedicated his life to an endless crusade, a war on all criminals in the name of his murdered parents who were taken from him when he was just a child. Since that tragic night, he has trained his body and mind to near physical perfection to be a self-made superhero. He's developed an arsenal of technology that would put most armies to shame, and he's assembled teams of superheroes like the Justice League, the Outsiders, and in the name of his murdered parents, Bruce Wayne wages an eternal war on the criminals of Gotham City. He is vengeance. He is the night. He is Batman. Not really a lot of this applies to Batman as seen in this first story. In fact, even Batman's origin was a mystery in that first story. It wasn't until a few issues later that they revealed that Batman was motivated by witnessing the murder of his parents as a small child, and that was what caused him to, as it says here, train his body and mind to be physical perfection. So, but yeah, the Justice League, the Outsiders, all that stuff would come along later. That was well after the events of this one. In this one, Batman is just Batman, just Bruce Wayne, all by himself. Doesn't even have Alfred yet. Alfred comes along later. You know, these days, Alfred's written into the backstory of Batman and, you know, was there since the very beginning and even raised Bruce Wayne after the death of his parents, but he wasn't introduced in the comics until years after the first appearance. Robin wasn't a character yet. It was just Bruce Wayne by himself, just Batman. So that was one-man operation. So he comes with this wrench, and anybody who's read Detective Comics number 27 knows that this is the wrench that he uses to smash the large glass dome that he finds himself trapped in with a would-be murder victim. The case of the Chemical Syndicate. One of the guys from the Chemical Syndicate. So then, you know, at the end of it, Batman sees this guy being lowered into a vat with poison gas. I'm sorry, not lowered into a vat. He sees a glass dome being lowered over this guy to kill him with poison gas. So he leaps underneath the glass dome and stuffs a rag in the spout so that the poison gas doesn't come out, and then he smashes it with that wrench. And then the bad guy rushes at him with a knife, which is not a good idea. Even if you don't know who Batman is, I don't think I'd rush the guy in the weird bat costume with a knife. And Batman punches him into a vat of chemicals, and he dies. So Batman kills the guy. This, of course, was all plagiarized from an early Shadow pulp, which was called, I believe, Partners in Peril. Bob Kane and Bill Finger, the writer, he admitted as much later on. I tried to get this tape out without getting caught on anything. And I could have sworn I cut the double tabs that were holding this guy in, but there's another tab at his waist. Why would you put double tabs around his torso and then another tab around his waist? Why does he need 3 tabs? And I'm sitting here thinking, oh, I don't see any tabs on the arms. I don't see any tabs on the legs. Maybe I'm lucky this time. Nope. We'll put them all around the midsection. Jeez. Okay. I know I cut them, so I pulled them out of there. And it's caught under his belt. So yeah, but they hadn't really figured out who Batman was at that time. Like I said, there was no Robin, there was no Alfred, there was no Batmobile. He drove a sleek roadster, red. He had a utility belt, as we can see, but it was mainly just to hold some gas capsules. He had a rope that just kind of hung off the side of his belt in a lot of images. And then they just kind of forgot about the rope hanging off of it, so I guess they figured it just fit into his utility belt somehow. We're going to set Batman aside for just a second. You can stand on your own. There we go. And we're gonna put the box back together so I can put that into the recycling shortly. You can see I got like a whole big stack of stuff I gotta take over the recycling. I went to the Goodwill the other day and I bought some stuff and they put it in like a really big bag. And I figured that would be a good bag to put stuff in to take it to the recycling and then take it out of the bag and put it in the recycling and then just keep the bag. You're not supposed to put plastic bags in the recycling anyway, so it's fine. All right, so right out of the package, I noticed, I don't know if this is going to come across. You see that little, right here, there's this little wild thread that's sticking out there. So I'm going to try to cut that off in such a way where I won't have that sticking out and making my figure look tacky. Just cut it with the X-Acto knife. There we go. That did it. That looks good. And I tried to fold his cape up in that sort of wing-like shape like you'd see a lot of the times in those early 1939 Batman comics. This is a really nice cape. And it's that kind of fabric that I like. I kind of make fun of this kind of fabric when it's used on superpowers capes. And, you know, I call it like the Christmas ribbon type fabric. But it works really well on this figure, I think. It doesn't seem anywhere near as chintzy on this one. And I think part of that is because they've got this nice wire underneath there so we can pose the cape. And that's good. This is exactly the sort of way you want a 1939 Batman cape to be. So it can have that stiff sort of look, or you can pose it in more of like a windswept kind of way if you want. So that's nice. And plus also another thing that makes this feel a lot nicer to me than this fabric normally feels. You can see how like they actually ironed in these sort of pleats to give it like this Batwing spine, and that looks really awesome. I really like how they did that. So that's really cool. So the sculpting is really nice. Much as they did with the first appearance, Superman, they tried to capture a lot of the flavor of that original 1939 comic book. Yeah, there we go. You can see that he's got the longer ears that kind of split off to the side. They don't stick out to the side as much as they did in that original story. This to me looks more like Batman circa like Detective Comics number 30 as far as the head sculpt goes, but that's fine. That's fine. I think that's it still has the right sort of flavor to it. He's got like really wrinkly gloves, and you can really tell that on some of these spare hands. He's got these two gripping hands, and you can see that they're specifically made so they don't look like hands that are holding guns. They really don't want you to give this Batman a gun, which means I'm totally going to give him a gun. All right. And then, of course, he's got these two kind of flat, almost karate chopping looking hands. But you can see like they're like really wrinkly. They look almost like welding gloves or something. So I'm going to go ahead and swap out one of these for the gripping hands. He's got two solid fists on the figure already. So I'm going to swap out the right hand for a gripping hand, because we're going to need that later when we look at his wrench. The colors are really good on this. Of course, it's for the most part a basic black and gray Batman, as it should be. But since this is a 1939 Batman, he has something that's rather unique about him, which is these little purple gloves, which, as far as I know, the only time that Batman wore little purple gloves during the Golden Age was in this first appearance. I suspect they were probably actually supposed to be black gloves, but they just didn't want to put a whole lot of shading onto the hands because they didn't want them to get lost. So when they colored it, they probably just colored it purple because that was about as close as they could get to black. Now, in the second issue featuring Batman, his hands are miscolored so that they're flesh-colored hands. If you look at them, you can tell they're drawn to be gloves. They've got like the little cuffs around the wrists and everything, but they're miscolored to be flesh-colored hands. So I'm guessing that's why in the very next appearance, the third appearance of Batman, it's made into a longer gauntlet, which comes all the way up almost to his elbow. And then finally, it's not long after that it goes from being that plain gauntlet to somebody had the bright idea to add some bat fins onto the little Batwing shaped fins onto the gloves. Originally, it was just kind of shaped like a Batwing, but later on it became kind of simplified to those three kind of triangular fins that we sticking off the gloves. So The cape is good. The colors are really good. It's a nice bluish shade of gray, which I really like. This is probably my favorite shade of gray to see on Batman. It's kind of similar to that Batman the Animated Series kind of shade of gray, so I like that. Nice bright yellow utility belt. I do think they probably could have done a better job on the boots at the bottom, like giving it a little bit of a heel at the back there. I mean, there's like a little bit of one, but it's fairly noticeable. Think about Batman Beyond, which had a very 1939 kind of feel to the design of the costume. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is he could have had that sort of exaggerated heel to it. And Justice League Unlimited, when they redesigned Batman for Justice League, and they brought some more of those 1939 elements onto it. He does have a very Justice League sort of Batman cowl, now that I think about it. So anyway, let's go over his articulation. Batman has a single joint of articulation at the neck, at the base of the neck where it meets the collar. As often Mcfarlane does, not all the time, but often, they put the joint down there so that they can get more of that smooth sort of look, where the cowl blends in with the neck. So Batman can look down about that far, great range of motion for looking down. He can look up about that far, not so great for looking up, but decent enough. He can rotate his arms all the way around at the shoulders. He does have a butterfly joint. This might be kind of hard to see because of the cape, but oh, I popped his arm off. It's okay, it pops right back on. All right, so the butterfly joint can bend back about that far, and it can bend forward about that far. I'm not going to push it any further because I don't want to pop his arm off again. He does have a bicep swivel. Bicep rotates all the way around. He's got the double jointed elbows. Range of motion on the elbows is about like that. So pretty good range of motion at the elbows. He can rotate his arm, or his wrist, of course, all the way around. He's got that cool Mcfarlane ball joint, so he can get a lot of good motion out of the wrist. So that's good. He's got the good Mcfarlane torso articulation, so we can move that all the way around in any which way we want. He does have kind of a wrinkly torso. It does look kind of familiar. Is it? It's not the one from Superman. His abs are a little more flat than Superman's. And it's not Flash because he's got that sculpted in. Ah, here we go. I knew that looked familiar. He's got the same abs as Fabok Batman, and in fact, these look to be the same thighs as well, and the same knees. Not the same calves because he's got much more plain bat boots. Now I'm going to have to look at everything on this guy. So he actually reuses a lot of parts from the Fabok Batman. The torso is very similar, but not identical, because you can see this one has the raised emblem that's kind of sculpted into it, and but it does look like it's based on that same sculpt. It's got a lot of the wrinkles in the same place. So this is basically a retooled version of the Three Jokers Batman, but man, they did a really good job with all the new parts that they added to it. I almost didn't recognize it at first. It was only because I thought those abs looked familiar that I thought to check. How about that? So of course, brand new belt. The trunk piece looks like it is the same trunk piece, but the belt is different. So yeah, reuses a lot of the same Fabok parts. So I like the Fabok Batman figure, so I'm not going to complain about that. So where was I? Oh yeah, Batman can kick up about that far. His trunks do kind of hinder that somewhat, but that's okay. He wasn't really a master of martial arts yet. Well, martial arts weren't such a big thing in the 1930s as they became later on. It was like really, I think, with my parents' generation that martial arts started to become a big deal. He does have the double jointed knees. You saw me playing around with those a little bit earlier. So the knees bend all the way back, so that's good. No boot cut whatsoever, but he does have the cool Mcfarlane ankle articulation, so you can still rotate the ankle all the way around. Ankle points down about that far, points up about that far, and like you can rotate all the way around it not only rotates all the way around where the ankle meets the shin, but also where the ankle meets the foot. So great articulation at the ankle. So let's go ahead and have a look at Batman's one accessory besides the extra hands, and it's this wrench. And we can fit the wrench into his hand pretty well. There we go. So he can bust himself out of that glass. And look at the cape, how the cape can flow out like that. Part of the reason I like this this fabric on this cape is, with the wire, it can hold its shape pretty well. So we can get all kinds of dramatic positions out of that cape. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to try to fold Batman's arms in such a way where it looks like he's got them folded across his chest, like he has in that one panel. But of course, the range of motion isn't quite good enough to get that, even with the butterfly joint. So that's about the best we can do. I can have him kind of cracking his knuckles. That's kind of cool, kind of tough guy. Burt Ward when he was trying to act like a tough guy kind of thing. Or even more Burt Wardish. I don't know why I want to make Batman act like Burt Ward, but I guess Robin had to pick it up from somewhere, huh? So he can do that number where he's kind of punching his palm of his hand. That's pretty cool. So yeah, this is a great figure. Let's go ahead and get another shot of him next to the 1938 Superman. So this is what both of these guys looked like when they first appeared. It'd be a few years before they would actually meet. The first time you would see Superman and Batman together, with Robin also, would have been the cover of World's Fair Comics #2, I believe. And of course, that was such a best-selling comic. They decided to make a series of it not connected to the World's Fair and called it World's Best Comics. But I guess they figured World's Best Comics wasn't exactly the best title. So instead, they decided to change it to World's Finest Comics. And that would remain that way until the 1980s, when unfortunately that title would come to an end. It was one of my favorite comics when I was a kid, because you got both Superman and Batman together. That was pretty cool. But then certain writers and artists who will go unnamed, Frank Miller, decided these two should hate each other. And then DC's like, oh, well, it doesn't really make sense for them to be in the same comic book together anymore. Yes, it does. These guys got a lot more in common than they have that separates them. I agree they've got certain philosophical differences, but doesn't that just add spice to a friendship? I think it does. So yeah, great figure. I'm really happy with this. I love Batman. Everybody knows Batman's like my favorite character. I love all kinds of different iterations of Batman. I'm not sure which one I would say is my favorite. It's tough choice. We got I would say that, Neil Adams' version of Batman from the comics, that was the Batman in the comics that I grew up with. So those are my favorite Batman comics. You had the Adam West television show. Loved the Adam West television show. That was really my introduction to the character and his world. So I'll always have some affection for that. I like the late Golden Age stuff, the Dick Sprang type of Batman. I love that. Batman the Animated Series, I think, is probably the best version of Batman. And it's also, I think, one of the most popular versions of Batman. So when I say, like, if I say any of those, like a lot of people who don't read comics wouldn't know what I'm talking about. But even people who didn't read comics watch Batman the Animated Series. So a lot of times I'll pick that one as being, like, when I say it's the best version, even though I think it's probably, like, the other versions I named are probably about as good, especially, like, the Neil Adams comics, because that was, like, I think what BTAS was mostly based off of. But I know everybody's seen Batman the Animated Series. So if I say that's the best version, a lot of times people just go, oh yeah, definitely that's the best version. I love, though, I gotta say, I got a lot of affection for this 1939 version of Batman. Like he's probably like my one of the versions that I have, I think, the most affection for, because it's just so pure in its concept, and they were still figuring it out, and there's a lot of excitement to that for me as far as that goes. So and then the 1989 Batman with Michael Keaton, I really like that one because I feel like it takes a lot of inspiration from this version of Batman. So that's pretty cool. But I'm really happy with this figure. Glad to finally have it in my collection. Plus, it gives me like another Golden Age guy. I can stand both of these guys with Jay Garrick and Alan Scott, Green Lantern, and that's a pretty cool Justice Society there. I would put the Spectre with them, but he's all the way across the room right now. So, but I'll try to get a shot of all four of them together at some point, and we can. I'll put that on the community post, so that should be fun. Anyway, that's pretty much it for 1939 Batman. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I've got some more Batman stuff to open up because I've actually got some vintage Batman the Animated Series items I'm going to open. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to open some 30-year-old toys on this show. So that might be traumatic for some of you guys, but I'm going to go ahead and open them. I like to open my stuff. I bought it so I could open it. You'll see what it is when I open it, but I'm pretty excited about those figures. If you want to make sure you don't miss that, make sure you like and subscribe. All the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this figure and Batman in general, and especially the 1939 version of Batman in general. And we will talk to you next time. Bye.